Hello everyone. We heartily welcome you to the next episode of SPARCNEXUS, and today we are glad to have Mr. Abhay Tulsian with us on board. Speaking of Mr. Tulsian, he's an entrepreneur with skill set, public speaker by passion, mentor for pals, and chartered accountant by profession. It's a pleasure to have you on board with us, sir.
Thanks,
And
Muskan.
this, yes, and this does not limit the successful career of Mr. Tulsian. Alongside, he's the chief financial officer of different enterprises, a keynote speaker at different forums, a strong consulting professional with a specialization in indirect taxation, corporate, and finance. He was an ex-consultant at EY and an expert in something which we all pay, GST. So many things in just one person. So we are grateful to have us with you on board, sir.
Thanks, Payal. My pleasure being with you on board.
Sure, sir. So let's move ahead then. So we will be asking you some questions related to your life journey, which will further provide information to our viewers. So let's begin. My first question for you, sir, is your career is a long journey from chartered accountancy, company secretary, chief financial officer, entrepreneur, freelance writer, GST expert, and whatnot. You have achieved heights in your professional career from each aspect. Could you please enlighten our audience about the obstacles that came in your journey and how did you overcome them?
Okay, to just talk about the things what has happened over a period of time from a chartered accountant to a company secretary, CFO, and then a consultant. I would say the journey had been with lots of ups and downs. The major obstacles I would say was my once it's more about having that one degree with you, a chartered accountancy. The degree itself speaks a lot about you, and if that one thing falls in place, other things just come automatically to you. So that is what I would say the major obstacle. I'll not say it as an obstacle, but the major turning point was clearing my chartered accountancy. And yeah, doing completing that course is one of the major tasks everybody has. So yeah, while doing CA, I had to because I was not so interested in information technology. So that was one subject where I had to give another attempt to try it out. So that was one major obstacle I got on the CA aspect, and CS was something. Before I tell you that, what happened is I'll like to tell you why I got into CS.
Sure.
Basically my whole aim was to do only CA, but then what happened was as I progressed through CA, I started feeling that in case what happens if I don't clear through this, then I don't have any other option. So I thought, okay, let's register for CS also. And then I registered for CS, and that time when I was in CS, we used to have that objective type. No, that used to be full descriptive papers for foundation and then inter. So those two levels got cleared very quickly, and then I was like, okay, chalo, acha hai. Either of either a CA or CS, I'll definitely be. And in the meanwhile, by the time I had completed my CS, I had the CA finals coming up. I had my CA finals. I wrote them, and immediately I think we hardly get a span of 10 to 12 days. I had my CS final examinations. And when all of my friends were in a mood to enjoy and go out, roam around, I was the one who was again sitting and studying for my CS exam, going through that. So, and at that time, because I knew very well that I hadn't done my CA exams very well, so I was uh, very much focused on CS. Ki, acha, no, if this doesn't turn out to be, let this be my the core area. But what happened was the CA at the end of the day, I didn't do well even in CS exams, and in that attempt, I guess like out of three modules, I just cleared one module. I guess so. Yeah, I had cleared only one module. Then what happened was in the meantime I got even my CA results. CA results also I had cleared only one group, and then I appeared once again. So that is how my CS journey was a backup plan, and at the end of the day I ended up even being a CS. although I had to take a few more attempts than compared to a CA exam for CS because I was never serious about it. So one thing I would say that more than the obstacles, it was the seriousness what I at times lacked for certain subjects. Like often my friends told me this: you are not concentrating on an information technology paper. Do study about it. One of my very good friend who had been with me right from CPT to the final had been always telling me, Abhay, you're not concentrating on this paper. Please do read about it. And I used to be like, Chodna yaar, we'll see it later. We'll see it later. And then that was the one thing which let me down in CS. So yeah, it is. I would not say that you always get obstacles in your life, but unless and until you have something in between which stops you or which because you will be going at let's say a speed of 100 kilometers per hour in a car very smoothly, and suddenly when you get an obstacle you need to find a way through it. And that is how you need in your professional journey, that always you have something which take makes you detour and then come back to your original tool. That is what I will always say. It is not an obstacle what it comes, but it shows you another way of doing things. I would say it rather in that way.
So that was really motivating, sir, and we definitely feel you because we have been going through the same journey as us. We
Yes.
know how hard it is to go through
Okay,
that.
We can.
you both are also doing chartered accountancy, and
Actually, the
Yes.
Spark is a society
So,
wherein we focus on professional courses as well. So we have majority of chunk of students who are pursuing chartered accountancy. We have
okay,
diversified into another aspects also, but majority of the chunk is doing chartered
okay,
accountancy.
great,
and
great.
so we can totally relate with you.
Happy that you are able to relate to it.
Sure. So, moving ahead to the next question. Sir, startups are the future of India. In fact, they are the present. But at some time, as per a report, 90% of Indian startups they fall within 5 years of their inception, and the actual success rate being only very less. So, being an entrepreneur yourself, what do you think is the reason for this failure, and where are the Indians lagging behind?
Okay, to talk about the startup industry, I would say that is now if you I would say first thing is a lot of people misunderstand the word as startup. Because now today if I open up even a small new business, people call it a startup. So yes, it in literal meaning it is a startup, but it is actually not a startup what it is meant to be. And yes, today we are in generation of techie startups. So definitely startups play a very crucial role in the economy, as well as this is something which is startups are something which are going to disrupt the whole economic scenario over the next decade. Now, but when you see a comparative, as you told, as per one of the report, 90% of the Indian startups fail. Whereas if you compare to startups in US, or let's say even in startups in Malaysia and Singapore are doing really well than Indian startups. I would say there is one major concern what I have noticed when I have discussed with a lot of startup founders is a lot of people, rather than focusing on their prototype or the USP or the niche market product, what they're focused main on the funding. I somehow want to achieve a seed funding of so and so million. I want to achieve this funding. I want to get that funding. Can and most of the startups whom I talk, they only talk ask the can you arrange for a funding? Because unless and until you have a good product or marketable product, how are you going to scale up your business or scale up the startup? So one common mistake or one common thing what I find in our generation of startup founders is people are running behind funding, which is not a very good sign is what I see it. And the another thing is I would talk. I'll say this. Let's categorize startups into two types: the ones which are just budding, and one which are in few already into few years of existence. What happens is when a founder starts a startup, he has a limited scope of idea with which he starts it up. And later on, to scale up that startup, he needs a professional management, and that is where the clashes come in between. Let's say, for example, if I have started a startup and as a founder, when I bring in professional management into the business, I start feeling, Arey, he is controlling the whole of my business now. I should have a say in the business. So that is not happening in many of these startups. Founders themselves want to have the whole say about it is something I would say, because today you have so much diverse knowledge available everywhere. You can bring on your professional managements on the board, and then if you try to scale up your startup, they will really flourish well. Because if you see, there are so many good startups. I would say yesterday, just accidentally, I came to know about an startup or aggregator service which is called as Buggy Solutions. I would say it had an amazing concept. I had never even thought of such concept, but when I saw about it, it was an amazing concept. And then I started finding who was the founder and other things. So that is how you have good. There are two things. Basically, few people do not have good market product, but they are looking for funding. And another one is they have good market product and they are still trying to survive in the market because a lot of people don't know about it. So similarly was one such startup I told you. So two things again, as I would say, lack of good market product running behind funding, and the other aspect I would say is this one. What do you call?
Okay, okay, that was really informative, sir. We certainly got to know about certain new points.
Yes, sir. And since public speaking has been a part of your career, and since you're a public speaker by passion, what techniques do you use to keep your speakers engaged?
Okay, so public speaking, let me tell you how did I get into this public speaking first of all, because this is something was which was never my cup of tea. I still remember I was, I think, either in class 6 or class 7, where I had actually taken part in an elocution competition just because I wanted to bunk my class. And especially what was the deal over there was we supposed to go to another school for our competition, and that is the whole day was supposed to be kind of an outing for us for the school, and that is why I went there. And when I went there, what happened was my topic was my favorite leader, and I had written about Abdul Kalam almost like 1.5 to 2 pages. And when I went there, I could just, because of the audience fear and everything, I was just able to say one line that my favorite leader is APJ Abdul Kalam. And post that, I didn't utter a single word and I just came back and sat. And post that incident, I was like, okay, public speaking is something which I can never do it. And so I never dared to go on the stage once again. And then something changed, I would say, in 2012, wherein there was a conference for CA students. You might be aware that is the students wing of all the chapters arranged for these national conferences for CA students.
Yeah.
So there I saw a lot of people who were probably younger to me or of my age. They were giving speeches on technical topics flawlessly. And then again that, वो बोलते हैं ना, कीड़ा काटा मेरे को कि I want to be a public speaker now somehow or the other. And then I started pursuing it कि somehow or the other I also need to be on that stage doing a presentation on some technical topic. So initially I was doing my all the public speaking was only on technical topics, and today also my sessions go more towards the technical topics than the motivational topic. So I'm more of a technical speaker. And from there I started preparing, wrote a lot of papers, got into the CS students national conference stage, and from there I learned one best thing about being a public speaker was, when you are on the stage people think that you are knowledgeable enough, and that is why you are there on the stage. So that is one confidence that backs you each and every time you are on the stage. Okay, people think that you are somebody better than them, that is why they are sitting there to listen to you, and then you need to do the justice. And when you go there, and that is what I would say, from there that somehow I learned getting into that art of public speaking, and somehow developed my habits and into public speaking. And then now it is like 1 year of lockdown, and then still we don't have those public sessions. So I start missing them now that, array, we don't have that live gathering where we can go onto the stage and speak. But anyway, that apart, coming back to your main question as to what do I do more to keep my audience engaged, I would say two, three things what I do. One is I keep asking questions, because I did a lot of seminars here for colleges, and I have this one thumb rule: if person sitting just opposite to me is not answering, I don't move forward in class.
Okay.
So if you are there to answer only, I will go ahead. Otherwise, I just stop there and listen until I get the answer. But okay, that may be a witty trick what I use in front of students. But when it comes to general people, what I do is ask more of questions. One, engage a bit with humor, and then here and there I start picking up like small, I just give them some sudden twists and turns. I would be saying them, let's say if I'm talking about GST to the audience, and suddenly I'll switch over to income tax, and then stop for a few seconds and then ask what happened. You have not noticed any difference. So it is basically just to keep your audience engaged. You need to do something. So that is one another aspect that I start. We call it as a bluff game. I bluff something and let's see what is the reaction from the audience, or I start repeating the same thing twice. So that is what I do. And apart from that, for being a good public speaker, I would say it is more of a confidence what you need, and then your content.
Yes.
Agreed.
True, sir.
That was really amazing. Overcoming your fear, I think, is the biggest achievement in your life. So that was really
True.
great.
Yes, sir, and we would definitely try these tactics while you're speaking on stage. Okay, so since you talked about GST, so we would like to ask that do you think that implementation of GST in our country is successful, or various loopholes in the implementation procedure has exposed the unorganized sector of the market to various challenges? What do you think is the biggest challenge before the government as of now regarding that matter?
Okay, to talk about GST, this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. And the question specifically what you have asked me, that is something what I love answering the most. But when it is a non-recorded session, I would be happier to answer that because I speak out what I really want to. But since you're on recording, I will keep myself limited to certain aspects. Okay, to talk about the first thing was the implementation of GST. Yes, that was one taxation reform that was very badly required in India, because we had almost a kind of a maze net of indirect taxes, and then that getting simplified into a one single taxation was a good reform. And the way it was being implemented is something which is not really satisfactory to me, because I would say when I was in EY, that period was almost 2016 to 2017, and we were having those model laws with us right from 2016 June or July, and we had been doing implementation study for our clients and other aspects. So at that time, we had noticed a different version of law, and what we have it today is totally a different version of law. The model version was way simplified than what it is today. Every day, this law is becoming more and more. I would say practically difficult to implement, or practically very difficult for from a business point of view to do business. Earlier, the law was very much simple, but now it has got more and more complicated. What was your second aspect on that question? I just missed out, I guess, apart from the implementation.
Yes, sir. It has exposed the unorganized sector of the market.
Yes, it actually, there are two aspects of it. What I would say is, one is it has actually exposed the unorganized sector of the market and made them come into an organized business. Whereas on the other portion, there are few markets which are organized, which they have, which are not organized to some extent, which has now become unorganized. Now it is mostly towards that area where the credits have been blocked. There are so many sections where credits have been blocked in GST, and those places people prefer to go unorganized. Okay, I will not do it. Book this expenses and book. I'll give you cash and close it out. So that has started happening in the market because of that. So I would say the impact has been kind of 50-50 on the organized and the inorganized sector. And yes, with these provisions of e-way bill, e-invoicing coming up, I would say yes, in times to come, we'll have that this organized, unorganized sector becoming much more organized.
Okay.
Definitely.
Definitely. So that was really informative. So now moving over to the next question that will make you a little nostalgic. So, sir, how do you think that your college and your educational qualifications shape your personality as a person?
Okay. So I'll have to take you back to my that CS and CA thing. What happened was, as soon as I did my 12th, I wrote my CPT immediately after my 12th board. I still remember my first CPT class was on 2nd April 2011, which was the World Cup final between India and Sri Lanka. I still remember that, sitting there and just scrolling my phone and seeing, okay, what is the score going on? That is how my first that is how my first CPT class went about it. And then by the time there was admissions for the college, my CPT results had come and I had cleared it. So I still joined a college, one of the arts and science college here, which is very renowned. I joined it here, and then post 6 months, I started feeling okay. If I'm going to be in college, I'll focus more on college, and I'll not continue. I'll not be able to focus on my IPCC, and so I had to drop out from my college, and almost like 6 to 8 months of college, and then I had to drop out, and then I continued my CA into full time. So probably not very much fond memories of college, but yeah, almost 6 to 8 months of college, whatever I spent most of the time in ground roaming around with my friends.
Okay, all right. So you were pursuing which course? BCom honors only?
BCom CS.
Okay, all right.
We have a lot of BCom with value added courses here, like BCom CA, BCom CS, and all lot of stuff. So I was doing BCom CS. Was that was the only course where I got an admission. I would probably say it that way.
All right. Okay.
Okay, so the last question is that this pandemic has brought about a wave of change in the corporate world. And how did it impact you and your work and your organization? And how did you get over to them?
Okay, one best thing what this pandemic has taught us is to connect with everybody over Zoom. I would say now, when if you take it particularly about my organization, I would say the initial 1 to 2 months which were suffering from lockdown, we had total lockdowns. That was the thing which impacted me or my organization the most. Apart from that, we started our regular work, and kind of a business or whatever work we do. We didn't have much of a online thing, so we had offline only. So we had our whole staff coming to our office and working. But yes, this pandemic has really taught us to be so tech savvy that anything. yeah, one thing what I would say is like I often used to travel down to Hyderabad or Bangalore or Chennai to meet up my clients, which has reduced scalability. Now, whatever happens, okay, so let's connect over a Zoom call and close it out. And similarly, everybody has upgraded their technology. So, uh, all the data and everything is becoming accessible from anywhere. Earlier, companies always thought so many times before investing into technology, but now everybody is like, okay, let's invest into technology. If something like COVID again happens, at least we'll not be impacted. So that is one aspect. I would say everybody has upgraded their technology, and yeah, uh, our work and profession apart actually made us relive our childhoods playing Ludo on phone and everything else.
True, sir.
Totally agreed. All right. So, with this, we move on to our next section, which is called the Game of the Spark. We will be asking you some short, quick, and fun questions. You are expected to answer them in a crisp manner. One word or a phrase will do the needful. Basically, it would be a kind of a rapid fire round. Okay, so are
Sure.
you ready, sir?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
sure.
so first question is for you is college life or school life?
School life.
All right. If given a chance, what is that thing you'll change from this world?
I would probably change the way taxes are being governed in this world.
Okay, my
Best.
next question is your favorite book and your favorite sport.
My favorite book has been Rich Dad Poor Dad, and favorite sports is to watch cricket and to play is badminton.
Okay, so I have just started reading that book, so I don't know much about it.
Okay, that's an amazing book actually.
I'll definitely complete it. Okay, so would you rather would like to have a higher IQ or a photographic memory?
Higher IQ always.
All right. So next question is your childhood dream.
Since childhood I always wanted to be a chartered accountant. That was one from a career aspect point of view.
That's great.
Right.
And last question from my side is CA or MBA?
CA always.
Okay.
Okay, continuing the questions. What would you be doing now if you never had to earn again?
I would somewhere sit in the Himalayas and chill.
My answer was the same.
That's exactly what Payal answered.
Okay, so if you could choose any superpower, what would it be and why? Any superpower.
Do I have option to pass?
No, you don't
So,
have a.
Because I don't, I'm not fond of these superpowers. Or in fact, if you tell me, I'll not even remember any of the superpowers what I'm
so
seeing.
any basic thing like
Like
being
my,
invisible
I
or
want to be invisible.
Okay, probably I would say that if I could just like this reduce weight or gain weight, whatever I want to.
I wish I would have that.
so everyone wants that power. Okay, so your role model.
I have been a very ardent fan of MSD, so I would say MS Dhoni is my role model. Although he is totally from a different field, but yes,
Great.
If you have a chance to spend a day with someone, who would it be and why?
I would say obviously I will want to spend it with MS Dhoni only.
Okay, so last one. Which career is not fit for you at all and why?
Mm, I would say choreographer dancing, that is not at all good for.
All right, so you did pretty well now. So moving over to our next round. So what will be your final advice to our viewers and to the students who are pursuing the same career as you are?
So my one piece of advice, what I after giving all the, I just tell one thing to everybody is like, see, the scenario what I had was totally different. what you will have or what Payal will have will be totally different. So me sitting here and giving a commentary is very much easier than you people playing on the field over there. So whatever you feel right at that point of time at that field, just go with the floor. It is good to have role models, but not just to copy those paths and go on those paths. Make your own path and let people follow you. That is what I would always suggest you all to do.
That
Definitely. Okay, so the last segment of this session. So you have to give a hashtag to the show, any word or phrase which sums up the totality of this session or your career. Any word or phrase will do.
Uh, that becomes a little difficult to tell about it. But
Anything.
mm, I would say rather passion with perseverance.
that correctly
Definitely.
sums up a session and your journey as well, sir. So, with this, we come to the end of the session. We once again thank you, sir, for joining with us and guiding us with your insightful thoughts. We hope that our viewers had a fun time with you and was able to learn new things out of your experience. Till then, stay tuned for our next episode of Spark Nexus. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in.
Thanks,
Thank
Muskan.
you
Thanks
so
for
much,
having me.
sir.